But in the data analysis domain, or even in the data science domain, like I don't see generative AI replacing people. It's more like an accelerator capability. For me, it's less about the tools or like the libraries. It's more about the fundamentals. Knowing what the fundamentals are and making sure that you have a good understanding of these fundamentals, that will kind of help you in the long run.
Hi guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. I hope you all are doing good. We are thrilled to be back with another exciting video. This one is particularly valuable for those who are considering a career in data analytics industry, but might not be from data science or computer science background. And be sure to watch this video till the end. And before we dive in, please take a moment to subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon so that you guys are always notified about all our upcoming videos. So on to the today's session. We are honored to have a very special guest with us, Novnit. Novnit is a seasoned professional working in the analytics industry. He is currently serving as a data scientist in Xenon. He also graduated from IIT Kanpur in 2017 as a civil engineer. So in this insightful discussion, he will be sharing his remarkable journey from graduating as a civil engineer to venturing into a realm of data analytics. We will also talk about what all career options which are available in this field if someone wants to enter it, and we will also be touching some real world case studies which Novnit has worked on so far, and finally we will also be discussing what sorts of skills are required to enter this analytics industry. So without further ado, let's delve into the enlightening session. So welcome Novnit, thank you so much for being here with us. So yeah, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. Hi everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Novnit, and like Shivani mentioned, I graduated in 2017 from IIT Kanpur with a BTech and MTech dual degree in civil engineering. And after graduation, I started my career in analytics. So my profile has been more in the service-based consulting. So basically, I started my career at Opera Solutions. There I worked as an analytics specialist. So the role was about, solving business problems with data, analyzing the data, finding insights, coming up with recommendations and so on. There was a lot of data analysis that we had to do. And there was also predictive modeling, a lot of client interaction. So those aspects are a key part as well. 1.5 years into my job, I decided to switch. I switched to Xenon, which is a very young company in this space. We are also trying to solve business problems with the help of data. So at Xenon, it's been a little more than 4 years for me, almost 4.5 years for me so far. And currently, I'm working as an engagement manager. So I've kind of seen the journey from an entry-level analyst to somebody who's managing teams, managing engagement, managing clients, and all of that, right? So that's kind of like a brief background about me.
Okay, great, Navneet. So my next question would be that, like you mentioned, that you have a dual degree in civil engineering from IIT Kanpur, right? And right after your graduation, you entered into the analytics industry. It's not that you have just made this decision recently. It's been quite a time for you that you are working in this industry, but you did your graduation and pursued civil engineering, right? So can you just tell us what was the reason behind making that switch and what pushed you to have a career in analytics industry? Because I'm sure when you started, it was not that mainstream in India, because it's quite a while for you there, and recently only it has started picking up. So can you tell us what was the reason behind it, choosing this industry?
Yeah, sure. So quite frankly, the industry happened to me. It was not like I wanted to go into analytics. So we have the campus placement process. And then as part of the process, you're practically preparing for different roles. But I knew that I wanted to do something in the consulting space because as a person, I love solving problems. And that's something I get to do on my job, on a day-to-day basis. So with that background, with that context, basically I landed in Opera Solutions, so which was like a consulting company, and they were very much focused on the data analytics side of it, like data-driven decision making. How can we help businesses with that? And as I got into my job, I got to work on some really amazing problems. I got to interact and work with very knowledgeable peers and very knowledgeable seniors. So that got me really interested, and I decided to continue down this road. And then so far it's been a very rewarding journey. I totally love what I do. It's just like something new every day. So that's what I look forward to.
Okay, Navneet. Cool. So my next question would be from a fresher's perspective, right? Because this whole analytics industry is so huge, and the lines are blurry between a lot of roles, right? You can be a data scientist if you learn few more, coding languages. You can just be a data analyst if you know Excel, SQL, and you can also be working on machine learning projects and all that if you learn a little bit more into machine learning, right? So a lot of the things are there in this industry. So just can you tell us in simpler terms from a fresher's perspective, like if someone is a fresher, has not much does not know much about this industry and wants to enter it and wants to learn things from scratch, how can he go about it, and what all career options does he have?
Yeah, so like you said, this space has become very wide and it just keeps growing, day by day. Broadly, there are 3 types of roles, very broadly, and within each there are specific kind of responsibilities. But the first kind of role is like a data engineering role, which is more about trying to get the data into the system. What are the pipelines? Like, how do I get the data from point A to point B? How do I store it? How do I manage it? Latency, those kind of factors. So that's a bit more technical. You need to have background. As a fresher also, it's a good option. The second option is around data analysis, which is once you have the data, right? Once the engineering part is done, you have the data. How do you solve business problems with data? So basically, what is data, right? I think we can just quickly touch upon that. So it's nothing but it's capturing some kind of behavior.
Yes.
And it could be human behavior in the form of how you're browsing the website, or it could be your card transaction behavior, or it could be if you've taken a loan, how you're paying back, all of that, right? And businesses, companies, they are interested in understanding the behavior, so that based on that behavior they can either increase their revenue or they can decrease their risk, or both, right? So that's kind of at the end of the day what different companies are trying to do with data. And that's where the data analyst, that kind of role comes in, that where you are trying to go into the data, trying to understand what are the behaviors, what are the patterns, what are the trends, and how you can use that to take action in terms of how can we get more business, how can we get more customers, how can we get them to stick to our business, not go to competitors, all of that, right? So all kinds of use cases are getting powered today. And the foundation is having, a reliable source of truth, a good data set, and then having the right set of skill set to analyze this data and get this information out. Then, like you mentioned, there is a data science aspect, which is going beyond insights. It's more about predictive use cases. Given I know this behavior from the past, what can I predict for the future? So that's where machine learning, deep learning, these kind of techniques come into the play. There's a lot of intersection today. You have data analysts also doing engineering, engineers also doing analysis, analysts doing data science. Then there is ML ops, dev. All kinds of intersections, interdisciplinary kind of work is also happening. But very broadly, these are the 3 categories of roles.
Okay.
Now, as a fresher, all 3 are very exciting. All 3 have a lot to offer in terms of learning, and like I mentioned, it's quite interdisciplinary, right? You enter from one stream, you can go to a different stream based on the experience that you get. But again, right? So in terms of prep, the prep might be a little bit different for the 3 roles. Maybe for this discussion, I can stick to the data analysis and maybe touch a bit about the data science, because I personally don't have that data engineering background in a lot of detail. So data analysis is a lot of it's super fun. It's mostly problem solving. You have data in front of you. You need to understand that what is it that you want to answer from that data, and you need to have that clarity. As an analyst, you can talk to your seniors, get that information, but you need to understand what the problem is. So it all starts with that. What is the question you're trying to answer? And then how does that translate into your work, right? So let's say you want to find out how people are, what kind of customers are, or what kind of visitors are coming to your website, right? So that you can based on the different types, you can take different actions. So it's like, how do you categorize the people? You're saying, okay, some people are just coming to the website and just going away, so that's like one category of user. Another person is coming, maybe they're shopping or browsing around a bit and then leaving the website. Some people might be logging in, authenticating, more serious about it. Some people might be reading some blogs. So there can be different categories, and you as an analyst have to uncover all of this information and have to come up with these segments and then for this particular use case.
Okay.
So in terms of so that hopefully gives a bit of an overview in terms of the work. But what are the expectations from a fresher, right? So expectation is, number one, you should be able to solve problems. You need to demonstrate that. It could be in terms of some case studies, guesstimates, some database cases, all of that. And then second is, it's good to have some technical skill set also, like being skilled with SQL, being skilled with Excel, being skilled, like having some Python knowledge, having some Tableau, Power BI, that kind of skill set also is very helpful.
Okay.
Because that helps you translate the problem into like a very practical use case, and then work with these tools to answer those questions. And then finally, there's also this aspect, like a software aspect of teamwork, being able to learn, being able to communicate well. Those things are also very important, because as a data analyst, you're always talking to multiple stakeholders. People are coming to you with questions. You're trying to answer those questions. So your job will involve like a lot of interaction with different people, right? It could be internal, it could be external, and so on.
Okay.
For data science, all of this applies. What else is additional is, like, you have to also, like, it's good to know some basics of machine learning as a fresher, like just some basics, like linear regression, logistic regression, have some idea, be a little bit aware of the current, current affairs. There's a lot of hype and discussion about ChatGPT, generative AI. It's not that you need to know it in detail, but just having that awareness can help you, have like a discussion with the interviewer and so on.
Okay, understood. So Navneet, next question that I want to ask about would be data analysis role only, right? So when it comes to this field, there are a lot of tools that are in the market, right? Some are sticking to the basics like SQL, Excel and all that, but some are using some other tools. So when it comes to becoming an entry-level data analyst, or anyone who is going to work in the analysis wala role, how important do you think it is to be actually great problem solver? Because people sometimes focus a lot on the tools that they're going to use, but not enough on how to develop that kind of problem solving ability, right? So if someone wants to enter it, and just tell us how much of a role does having that ability plays, and the kind of tools that you get eventually good at. And if someone wants to do that, like, how can he actually become a better problem solver?
Got it.
Yeah.
So my understanding and what I've learned so far is there are like two fundamental skills that we need to develop for the rest of our lives. So one is problem solving, and that's like it just doesn't have to do with your job. I mean, it's just general problem solving also. Like, how do you approach a problem? How do you break it down into smaller pieces? Try to solve each of the smaller pieces. Like, maybe I can take an example and discuss this point in more detail. But essentially, that's like a core skill which we need to develop regardless of our job, regardless of what we are doing. Like, I'll quickly touch upon the role and then come back to the problem solving aspect. Quickly touch upon the tools and then come back to the problem solving aspect. So, in terms of tools, like you mentioned, Excel is very important. Like, I use Excel every day. It's super important. It's super helpful, and it's good to know it in some capacity, right? Like in college, we may think that we know Excel. We can write a formula, we can do some sorting, but Excel has so much to offer, and if you learn it well, then it really makes your job easy, right? In terms of like it's like a last mile kind of a tool that you do all your heavy lifting in SQL, in Python, all of that. And then the last mile is kind of where Excel comes in, that you're trying to summarize all of it into like a story that you want to tell to your peers, you want to tell to your seniors, your clients, managers, and so on, right? So when it comes to that final last mile delivery, that's where Excel or Tableau, for that matter, our PIT schools also have a key role to play.
Yes.
And to power all this, like Excel, of course, has its limitations. So that's where you have like SQL, Python, these tools, very important. Again, like SQL is the good thing about SQL is like it's very easy to learn. It's very generic. Every organization that has data is using SQL in some shape or form. So knowing that is like a universal skill if you want to be in this industry, and it's easy to learn. It's very intuitive. So that's like a great starting point. Python, again, in today's world, like Python is like the main language for data analysis, data science kind of use cases. There have been other languages also in the past, like R, SAS, but they have kind of fallen up like below Python. Python is like prevalent, like big time. So Python, of course, has its own learning curve. I remember when I started my career, I was working with R exclusively for 1.5 years, and then I had to move to Python. It was a bit of a change for me. It took me like a month and a half to adjust, but yeah, it's like once you get into it, once you like, even with like very basic, let's say you have done some programming in school, right? You have done some for loop, some if-else statements. Like it starts from that. So that's like the foundation. That's like the building blocks. Like in 8th grade, 9th grade, we did some computer science courses in our schools, right? So that kind of is the foundation, and then of course you need to build a lot more on that over time. And at an entry level, just having the basics is enough. It's good enough. And what you need to really demonstrate is that yes, you're a good team player. You'll be able to learn on the job. You have the basic foundation. You have the interest. And after that, once you're in the team, then that's where you get like the real exposure, and you're able to learn and grow as you work. So that's a bit about the tools. And then coming back to the problem solving and how do you develop problem solving? It's just exposure, I'd say, to a large extent. Like exposure has a role to play, and you cannot learn to solve problems in a silo. It often helps to discuss it with a friend. Let's say you sit with your friend, you take a problem, right? It could be something very specific also. Let's say you have some let's say some COVID data set, right? So when like the pandemic was when we were going through that tough time, there was a lot of data that was being made available about the pandemic, and different people have created different tools, where is it increasing, where is it decreasing, the bed count, this, that, right? So there are a lot of real use cases around us, and even you can go for, there are some platforms like Kaggle. So on Kaggle, there are a lot of like data sets that you can pick up. You can try to use that, explore that. But having said that, it helps to have a friend, sit with your friend, take a problem, brainstorm on it, how will you go about it? That helps you broaden your horizons, and then maybe discuss with more people. You could have a peer, or you could have somebody in the industry already. Take the problem to them, discuss with them. How will they solve it? So it has a lot to do with exposure, talking to different people, getting different ideas, and adopting that to become a better problem solver yourself.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of like the process. But in like just going a little bit into what I have learned so far. So it's basically understanding, like the key about problem solving is understanding the problem. So like 80% of your time, if you spend on what is the problem, getting to the core of the problem, then the solution is easier. So once you know the problem, once you can identify it, then solving it becomes a lot easier versus, partially understanding the problem and then trying to solve for it, it makes it very complicated, and you often don't end up solving it. So spend time, start with some problems in your area, and then you can go deeper into that. So that's kind of my 2 cents on this. But yeah, like happy to go into more details.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to put it. I mean, the more you expose yourself to different kinds of problem, the better you become. You can talk to a lot of people about it, and you can start picking up projects on your own, right? You can start with n number of data that is available on sites like Kaggle and all that, and you can just also start picking up case studies, right? Like consulting case studies, you can just start doing. So apart from doing all the practice on Excel, SQL, you can just start picking up problems from here and there and start thinking on how you would approach it. Or maybe you could just start with that VC approach as well, which is mostly used in the consulting industry, right? Mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive wala. So that is something which also people. So it's just all about the mindset that you start developing, and as soon as you start applying it to all the problems, then you will start developing that sort of problem solving ability as well to solve them.
That's right. Yeah.
Great, Naveen. So my next question would be, like you mentioned, that to become a better problem solver, people should just start picking up maybe different projects from different sites and start doing something about it. So that's one way to that can also help to put something on your resume as well, right? Because when you go for a entry level job, they would want to see something. They would want to see where you applied those skills that you have learned. So can you share few real life case studies that you have worked on? Because people would love to know, what are like actual case studies and real life problems that data analytics professionals are actually solving. So if you can just share few interesting ones with us, it will be great. And how you ended up solving them. Yeah.
So basically, I've worked on let's say broadly 4 industries. So I started my career in the film and media industry. So it's a use case we'll all relate to, and it has to do with like scheduling movies in the theaters.
Okay.
So just imagine, right? Let's say you're one of the cinema chains in India or anywhere, and there are all these movies that keep releasing every week, right? So how do you go about creating the schedule that, okay, this movie should play at this time on this screen, right? And this other movie should play at the same time on a different screen. What should be the pricing of my tickets? And there's a lot that goes into just coming up with that schedule. For us as end consumers, it's very easy, right? We just open an app, let's say My Show, Paytm, whatever. We see the schedule, we like book a ticket based on our convenience, based on the price, all of those factors. But there's a lot that is happening behind the scenes. And that's where like you can take that problem with your friend, right? You can discuss with your friend that, let's say you had to schedule the movie. What are all the factors you will consider? And how will you go about solving that problem? And then that becomes like an exercise. You can keep discuss with different people, and through that you can develop your skill set. But having said that, let me come back to our use case. So basically the data is like, for this use case, is just ticket sales, right? You know that for this movie, these many tickets were sold for this theater, for this show, all of that information. You also have some information about the popcorn sales that it's called like retail sales, like popcorn, cold drink, that kind of sales, right? And what is the objective of the business here? So they are putting the movies to, at the end of the day, they make profit, right? So they are trying to maximize their revenue. What that means is they're trying to get maximum people to attend the shows. At the same time, they cannot price the tickets too much, because then the person may go to a different theater, a competitor, and watch the movie there. Today the scenario is very different. So when I was working on this platform, like OTT platforms were just coming up. So now with OTT, I'm sure it's a completely different equation. That's a new parameter you need to consider. So having said all that, it's basically understanding what is the objective. So objective is you want to increase your revenue. Cost is somewhat fixed, because it's mostly like operations. For a theater, you have some rent, you have some people. There is a film, the price you need to pay for getting the rights to show that film and all of that. But that's more or less fixed. So you can kind of say this is like a revenue problem, that you want to increase your revenue. And then what is revenue? It's like how many people are going to watch the show, how much are they going to pay for the ticket, and also the retail sales, all of that, right? And then you kind of use the data to create predictive solutions that will start predicting the attendance of movies. Let's say I take the show Oppenheimer, right? So that came out recently. I'm sure some of us have watched it. Let's say I schedule Oppenheimer at 10 p.m. on the screen in this theater. What is the expected number of people will attend? Versus if I schedule it at 8 p.m. on the same screen, what's the expected number of people that will attend? So you kind of develop solutions that are predictive in nature and that can predict for you this attendance kind of information for different timings of the show. And then you have the ticket. You can also play with the ticket price. You can kind of keep it fixed, and then you can use that to determine, okay, this movie I need to play it at this particular time. But that may not be the optimal solution because you have a lot of movies to pick from. And then there's a competition also that comes in. Let's say I have, movie X, there's Gadar 2 that's come out now. That's kind of playing on screen 1. Then you have Oh My God 2 playing on screen 2. So there's going to be some kind of competition there. And like those factors also come into the play. But essentially you use the data to see the patterns, and then basis that you kind of build predictive solutions, and using that you kind of try to see, optimize for it and try to see how you can create a schedule that kind of gives you more revenue. So I can take another example. I worked on it like maybe a year back. So this was with an investment bank, and we were trying to come up with ways to increase engagement of visitors on their website. So what they wanted to do, so basically they were publishing a lot of content about the financial situation, how different markets are behaving, and even beyond financial, articles about technology, articles on other topics as well. So they wanted, for them it was important that when people come to their websites, they are engaging with this content. So because it helps them with their brand image, they are seen as a good partner for content. So that's where it was mostly about understanding the traffic that's coming in, and it's called like clickstream data. So what happens is that as you're browsing a website, your activity is getting captured in an anonymized manner. So you're clicking here, after 2 seconds you click there, you're reading this information. So this information then becomes critical to understand how different types of users are behaving or interacting with different types of content. And this is where it was mostly like a SQL kind of exercise. Like we used SQL, there was a lot of data, and then we were trying to identify different types of visitors, what they were doing on the website, and how do we get them to engage more or spend more time reading articles, spend more time sharing that article. You can share it on social media with your friends. We are trying to drive those kind of engagement KPIs. And this was mostly based on just doing very good analysis of the data and trying to understand some very key patterns and some key drivers of engagement.
So I guess working on the different problem statement is how you end up optimizing the solution for the company. Different companies have different problem statements to work on. Some wants to reduce the cost, some wants to increase the revenue, some wants to see different type of data. So उसके basis पे आप just analysis करते हो और problem statements को better तरीके से समझने की कोशिश करते हो.
That kind of summarizes.
Great. ठीक है नवनीत. So my next question would be, जैसे आपने explain करा कि काफी कुछ dependent है, कितना अच्छे से आप data को analyze करते हो, right? और उसके around problem statements को कितना जल्दी मतलब solve करने की कोशिश करते हो. So when it comes to so a lot of people say this, that when it comes to generative AI and all that, so generative AI into the picture, how do you think is it going to affect especially the entry level jobs, because बहुत ही basic वाला जो काम है, जैसे analysis हो गया, data clean करना हो गया, process करना हो गया, जो कि बहुत पहले time लगता है, मतलब अगर human का time में उसमें देखो तो बहुत लगता है, और अगर even simple level decision making जो बिल्कुल नीचे की level की है, वो भी people are claiming that can be solved by generative AI. So just tell us to what extent this is going to affect the job market, right? And कहाँ पे humans can be replaced, their decision making can be replaced, and कहाँ पे it cannot be. And you can also tell us what a person can do best, so that he is not at least replaced by some generative AI code or something.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually good point you're raising here. So definitely there are some sectors which are impacted. We know, right? We have seen companies laying off people in and opting for like AI based chatbots and things like that, which is more to do with like customer support, wherein there is like a somebody coming in with a query, and AI is able to get to it faster in some situations, or so it's claimed, right? So but in the data analysis domain, or even in the data science domain, like I don't see generative AI replacing people. It's more like an accelerator capability. So there are two aspects to it. Okay, the first aspect is adoption. So companies today, even though there is Gen AI, they are very careful with the adoption of Gen AI, right? Because there's a lot of compliance related considerations which they need to keep in mind before they start adopting it for whatever use case, right? So adoption is not as fast. Adoption is slow. It's like people are taking a very careful approach to it because this is new technology, and you want to be very careful about it. Secondly, it is like an accelerator, right? So I use ChatGPT every day for something or the other, but it's more like an accelerator. It doesn't replace what you do. It just makes it faster. It's like before you had Google. It's not that Google took away any jobs. It came in. It made your search process faster. This is in a way kind of helping you write code faster, or helping you summarize and some kind of let's say you're writing an article, right? You're taking its help to write it faster. So it's increasing your productivity. It's not replacing you. You're able to get more done in less time. Same applies to data analysis as well. In my opinion, yes, you will be able to write queries faster. You'll be able to do some of this analysis faster, but at the end of the day, it cannot solve a problem for you, right? So we have been talking about problem solving being a core skill, that identifying what the problem is, right? So do I need to increase revenue? Do I need to reduce cost? How do I increase revenue? What are my levers, right? And a lot of time goes into identifying what the problem is, and then coming up with questions that you want to answer. And once you do this groundwork, that's where maybe something like Gen AI can come and make that answering process a bit faster. That if like suppose you have a data set, instead of having to write 10 lines of SQL, if you just write a human query, that show me the list of top customers or customers who have spent the most in Mumbai in the last 2 hours, right? So instead of you having to write that SQL query, it can write it for you on your behalf. Of course, it's not going to be perfect. It will make its errors and things like that, but
and then also you'll have to understand SQL to be able to correct it,
you have to be able to verify it, right? Like suppose it gives you a wrong answer, you cannot take that and do anything with it. You'll need to verify it. So the human will be there. Human will need to verify. Human will need to make sure that the results it's generating is correct. But what it will do is it will make us more productive. That's kind of how I view this latest development.
I guess वो repetitive tasks जो होते थे mostly, that will be reduced and you will be more productive. And then again, good people who can do good analysis, who have identified the problem statement, they are going to stay because they are the only one who can tell the AI also to what to actually look for, what kind of data to actually look for, and the variables that are required.
Exactly, right? So these are all like instruction based or prompt based tools. So you need to come up, like you need to do a lot of groundwork before you can know what instruction needs to be given, right? So, and even after that, a lot of validation and those things need to happen. So it's kind of like a friend, the way I think of it. I'm very AI optimistic. I'm kind of pro AI, and so I kind of view it as a friend. It has been very helpful to me so far, and I'm sure it will continue to be helpful.
Yeah, and I'm sure it will it will only bring new job opportunities, right? Because the more
Yeah.
we bring new use cases for it, the more jobs will be created, and you never know. Matlab, it will obviously be a boom for the human race, right? But let's see how it is going to act in the analytics industry. So, Navneet, my last question for this discussion would be that, like we mentioned, that major problem or anyone who wants to enter this industry is that they have to have that problem-solving mindset, and they can work on it n number of ways. And when it comes to tools, the tools always remain the same. Like you can start from scratch, like from Excel, SQL. But can you just tell us, like, how important is it to keep yourself updated in this industry when it comes to different, maybe libraries or different tools that are coming in the market? Or do you think is it even important to keep that updated, or do you think कि basics पे अगर आप fundamentals पे focus करोगे, doesn't matter what tools come in the market, you can always cope up?
Yeah, it is the latter. So the the fundamentals need to be very strong. And maybe I'll take it one step further, like beyond just problem solving. Like in data analysis, there are some concepts, like concepts such as how do you merge two data sets, right? So you have some key, let's say you have some employee table, and then you have some kind of, let's say, the employee getting staff on different projects, how much time they're spending on that project. So let's say you have two data sets. To be able to use this data, so the in a holistic manner, you should be able to join the two data sets on some key, right? So the joining activity becomes like a foundation for any kind of data related activity. So be it SQL, be it Excel, be it Python, be it anything. So join is a very fundamental concept which will apply regardless. Now, so similar to joins, there are other kind of fundamentals. There is concatenation. So concatenation is more like you have one data set, you have another data set. You're just going to put it. It's like you have page one and page of the same data set. You want to put it together, right? So basically these fundamentals are very important. You need to practice. You need to know how to use these in solving some or answering some kind of question, so that you can become a good data analyst or a good data scientist. But yeah, so these fundamentals are important. In terms of the tools, they are universal. Tools, you have something today, you have something new tomorrow, and with this evolution, like the way tools evolve, it evolves to make your life easier. Yeah. So if you have learned something today, it doesn't become redundant. Like maybe 1 year later, you will have something that does the same thing but does it in an easier way, or like in a more efficient way.
I think that is a great piece of advice, Navneet. Okay, so I think we have discussed pretty much everything. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers? Any sort of advice you want to give to the freshers who are looking forward to make a career in analytics industry? Anything which you realized late in your life, and something that you wished someone had told you so that your life was a little bit smoother? I know it was already, but you can just share a few insights.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's very exciting. I mean, being a fresher, the thing is you have so many options. Ye karu, ki wo karu, sometimes it's also confusing, like having a lot of options. But having seen this industry closely, having worked on a lot of different problems with a lot of different companies, what I've seen is that I absolutely love it. Why? Because it's like today you're working on problem X, tomorrow you're working on problem Y, the data sets are changing, but at the same time you're learning, like what you've learned, let's say 6 months back kind of applies to what you're doing now. It helps to take your journey forward in a very meaningful way. So data, like this industry is really exciting one to be in. It's very relevant. It's something, all the companies today are, focusing on, because before this thing came about, it was more like, strategic, trying to come up with some strategies, this works, that doesn't work. But there wasn't a lot of evidence to back it up, right? So today you have a lot of data with which you can make very informed decisions. And that's kind of how businesses are operating today. In terms of advice to freshers, it's more about focus, like, sure, like the fundamentals are important, right? That will help you differentiate. But as a fresher, don't take a lot of stress about it. What we really look for, like I've been interviewing, for many years now, like interviewing candidates. For freshers, what I like to see personally is, okay, is this person interested in this field? Do they have some background, right, to back up their interest, right? Okay, I've done this, I've done that. That helps make your interest a little bit more real. Are they able to have a discussion with you? So usually what will happen, or what I like to do is I'll give them like one of the use cases I'm working on, right, in a very simplified way, and try to see, am I able to have a good discussion with them on it, right? So that's where something like problem solving, having those discussions with your friends, will kind of help you. And just overall, will this person be a good fit for the team? Like, will I like to work with this person? All of that, right? Good communication. Communication is not about, being, very, very fluent in English or something like that. It's less about your command on the language. It's more about very simple things like, are you listening to what the interviewer is saying? Have you understood the question? If not, are you clarifying your question? Are you clear in what you're trying to say? So these are very like basic things in communication, which we tend to overlook, thinking that, okay, I need to have very good vocabulary, I need to be very good in English. That's secondary. So like these are like the problem solving, communication, that's fundamental. I've spoken about it a lot in this discussion, but that is important. At the same time, for data analysis, data science, being able to show the interest, being able to back it up with some studies you have done, some course you have done, some kind of problems you have worked on, some kind of project you have worked on, that helps. But yeah, like overall, don't worry too much. Just try to get in. Once you're in, that's where the true your journey will begin. And there is no replacement to like learning on the job. Like, you'll be working on real problems, you'll be working with peers. So like don't worry too much about it. Even if you're not from a coding background, even if you're not from like you're trying to get into this industry, like the prerequisites are not a lot. So just having that interest, like having some kind of problem solving and communication, like good skills, that is there. Like that is enough. That is sufficient.
Okay, so that is great piece of advice, Novnit. And you have also shared some, interview tips with viewers. So I hope people do pay attention to all those things whenever they are going for an analytics interview. They will take care of the points that you have also shared. So thank you so much, Navneet, for taking out time to do this with us. I hope people will find it really insightful and will apply all the things that you have said here in their real life, so that they are also able to crack a job in analytics industry. That is it for today's video, guys. I hope you all found it extremely insightful with Navneet. Please like and share the video, and don't forget to comment below your queries so that we will bring them up in our next discussion with an industry professional. And if you guys are also willing to start your career in data analytics industry, you can just go to our website and register for our aptitude test. Once you give that test, you will be recommended which course is best for you. Like Navneet mentioned, it is really important for anyone who wants to enter in analytics industry to have a problem solving mindset, and that is where we AccioJob come into picture. We have instructors from top IT companies who themselves have worked in the great companies as consultants and analytics professionals. So they will be teaching you all about it in our course, and you will get to work on real life projects. So do make sure that you check out our course. And if you guys want to see more such content, you guys can just let us know in the comment section below. And do register for our course. And if you are new to the channel, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you're always updated on all our upcoming videos. And thank you so much.